Hey guys, welcome back to our third episode of Note to Self. My name is Maya,
My name is Evan Bola.
My name's Sarah.
My name's Esther.
and we're Note to Self. Today we have a topic that is really up to date with what we're going through all as high school students and as someone who's currently about to go on to college. And our topic for today is going to be transitions and change. Transition and change is something that I think we all deal with on day-to-day basis, and sometimes are long-term transition and sometimes are long-term transition and short-term transitions. So for us personally, transitions occur a lot in our education, so going from one grade to the next. For me, it's going to be a little different than everybody else's here because I'm going to be graduating high school and going on to college. So while going from grade to grade is a transition, there's also what I'm considering a little bit of a bigger transition. I'm a little nervous to leave this chapter behind, but I know that transitions are good and we grow from them. And I know everybody could talk about their experience. We've transitioned into our grade we are now from our last year.
I can speak a little bit more on that. So now that I'm a junior, this year has taken me by surprise. I honestly thought it was going to be similar to my sophomore year, thinking that was going to be a bit of a breeze and just like the same things, maybe different curriculum. But this year I realized that it's like double the workload, honestly. It's like I'm taking two school years in one, if that even makes sense. It's like something I didn't really see coming. But now that we're almost done with it, it's almost like a reflection. And it's like, wow, I made a big step and I'm happy with the steps that I made.
I
Yeah,
have
it
to
definitely is one of the tougher years.
Yeah.
I have to agree with Abimbola. I'm in sophomore year right now, but it was a really hard transition for me from freshman year to sophomore year because freshman year I was in a little bit different caliber of classes. And so I know that it was just like really easy for me to be involved in extracurriculars like almost full time. Like school was my part time and extracurriculars were my full time, and I could really just do like whatever I wanted. And then I came into sophomore year and I got stuck with interesting teachers and interesting classes that are a lot harder. It was my first year taking college level classes, and it really like smacked me across the face, and it was not what I was expecting. Everybody told me sophomore year was going to be like the fun year off, and I was like, this is not the fun year off. I'm very scared actually. But I do feel more hopeful for junior year because I have heard a lot of people who struggle with junior year, but the workload that I'm coming from, I feel has prepared me adequately for what is coming up.
Absolutely. I feel like if you know that there's change coming, like sometimes you really do have to prep yourself. I was going from this small school and now at Fort Lauderdale. I mean, you can really get lost if you don't pay attention and you slip through the cracks. And I feel like it took a lot to just like there's really no way to prepare yourself for change sometimes, and you just have to the only way you can prepare yourself is to just be there for yourself and be positive.
Yeah, I totally agree that like sometimes if you don't give yourself the time to prepare and also time to like transition, like it's not going to be something that's instant for everybody. And for some people it is. I know a lot of times I sometimes sit back and I'm like, wow, why am I struggling in this transition? But my friends are fine and it's a smooth, seamless transition for them. But it's the understanding that everybody's different and transitions are going to be different for everybody based on, like they're saying, classes that she's taking now are going to help her transition to next year. And not everybody has that. So some people it's going to be a little more difficult.
Yeah, so I have something about that I think is pretty interesting. So I know that you mentioned about you're struggling with this transition and other people that you know that you're friends with that have been in your family and you have gone through it are not struggling with that. And I think that that's the thing is that sometimes there's an idea that people aren't struggling with the transition, and they are, and they're just not saying anything. So I know, like, I have a bit of in the past, I've struggled with change. I don't want to continue to say that I do for the future because I'm moving out of that. But in the past, I had a really hard time with any sort of change, and it could be something really little. And like everybody else would be not struggling with it. And so from the outside, I'm sure that it looked like I wasn't freaking out or I wasn't struggling with it. But really, I was, and sometimes I know that I like to keep things a little bit more private just because sometimes I'm not ready for comments from other people about why I'm struggling or about what I could change in my life to stop struggling because people like to have their opinions on things. But sometimes it's also just like I feel like I don't want to stress out the people around me and make them think twice about something that they're not struggling with. But in all reality, they could be doing the same thing that I'm doing. We're like, we really are struggling with it, but you want to make it look very seamless and smooth. And it's good. It has its time and place. Like if you're protecting yourself from comments that you're not ready to face yet, you don't feel prepared to answer. But also, I think that especially when you're with people in your age and they're going through the same thing, you don't always have to conceal that. Sometimes it's good to open up because you can provide a little bit of support for somebody who's going through the same thing and also hiding some of those struggles.
Yeah, and going back to like the preparation for transition, I know personally my transition, it might have been a while back, but from elementary school to middle school felt a lot more scary and like overwhelming than my transition from middle school to high school. But I know from middle school to high school, I went to like a lot of events, orientations, camps to where I could get to meet the people I was going to be going to school with. So that's just a way of like preparing yourself so it's not as big of like take you by storm when you get there and more of a like, okay, you know your way around. You may not know everybody you're in class with, but you're gonna eventually get to know everybody that you're in class with and that you're seeing every day. You're gonna get to know your teachers. Let's start off with the easy part. You know how to get around so you could get to where you gotta go and not feel overwhelmed in that aspect.
Yeah,
For
I
sure.
definitely agree. You can go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, recently, big transition for me. I moved out of a house I've been at for like 7 years. And so I was scared. I just had this connection with my room. It was such a safe space for me. So when I came here and like the walls were all blank, I'm like, I don't know what to do here. I don't feel like myself. I need to feel happy. I need to decorate things. And I feel like you really do have to make yourself feel comfortable in the transition. You have to like bring in the positivity, be like, well, this is big, this is new, this is different, but it's gonna be my own. I came in a freshman year, I'm like, this school, no idea what's going on. But you really like become your own person, you get involved in events and activities, and that's when you really like make the transition such a positive thing.
All right, I definitely agree. I feel like the way we adapt to these changes and traditions and transitions is the most important thing because I mean, no transition or change is like a small one. Even if it's like we can quite think of it as the most minimal thing, but like it's always gonna affect us in a bigger way than we think it is. Like what Maya said earlier, when when we transitioned from like elementary to middle school, it was like a big thing. I know that what made me change my schools because my school was actually a pre-K through 8, but I had to go to another middle school because I wanted something different for myself. And I wanted to push myself to like go beyond what I knew and who I knew. And it was like one of the biggest things for me because I had to reinvent myself in a way. I had to create a new identity for myself and become a new person. And comparing it to how I transitioned from middle to high school, I started high school online. So it wasn't really like a big transition for me, but I know when getting on campus, it was like a whole new world because it was like adjusting to the high school life and things like that. So yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah. something that Esther was talking about kind of like stuck with me was when she was saying like when moving into the new house, she didn't feel like it was her own because like the walls were blank and it wasn't her. And I feel like that's a big part of transitioning is making sure to stay true to yourself. It's okay to adapt and evolve, but never lose sight of who you really are on the inside and keep you have traits that are your traits that you keep. Like let's say you really like something, you're not gonna want to just drop that in order to fit in here. It's really staying true to who you are and keeping yourself grounded while everything else is changing. Esther was talking about getting to high school. You have to be yourself and grow your group of friends to while being true to yourself so that you know these are people I get along with. We have similar things in common. And even if we don't, we might just get along and that's okay because I know I'm not changing who I am to a crazy extent in order to have these friends or be in this group.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one thing about like not changing yourself and like remembering who you are that also resonated with me from what Esther was saying is so Esther said something about blink walls and that stuck out to me and it's like it sounds like a silly analogy but like stick with me here. So I think like for a while I sort of like in my life, in my own life that I have to live every day, I almost had blank walls. Like I was just, I wake up, I go here, I do this so that I get good grades, and then I go home and I go to bed. And it's like, okay, why do you get good grades? Why do you do extracurriculars? Why do you even want extracurriculars to put on a resume? What is that resume for? And I realized that like I was very basically going through the motions of things and I hadn't like moved into my own life. Like I wasn't even really in my own life. I was sort of just watching it from the outside, just getting things checked off. And so I think like I've tried a lot in the last couple of months due to just some people in my life inspiring me to sort of like get out of my own way and allow me to unpack myself into my own life. And I've just tried to really incorporate myself into my life and it hasn't been negative. I know that's one thing like I'm always scared like okay, but the blank walls have gotten me far, okay? Like checking off the boxes, checking off the grades, it's gotten me far. But when I unpacked myself, I didn't get bad grades. I didn't get, uninvolved in extracurriculars that I've been doing. I just I just got confidence because I actually knew why, right? It's not, oh, I went to school so I could get good grades and I took notes so I could get good grades. It's I did this because I want this in the end. I did these extracurriculars because I enjoy this and it'll help me get involved in this. And that's like something that's improved my life and my changes because to me like moving into my own life and making sure that I know who I am, not only does that help me when the friendships that I'm in change, when the people that I'm around change, but also being involved in my own life and being more comfortable in my own life was a change in itself. And it was a positive change. So I want to give that example because I know it took me a long time to like stop doing the same things that I did just because I've been successful thus far.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's like you're almost like in the routine and you're like, well, this is working. And a lot of people normally say, don't fix or yeah, it's don't fix something that's not broken. But if we're fighting the change, then we're gonna be very stagnant and we're never gonna go beyond what we already have. You already accomplished what you have currently. So it's time to allow yourself to grow and evolve and make new accomplishments because you already have the ones you accomplished. So, what's the next step?
I like definitely agree with getting comfortable being in the same place and like staying complacent because it gets to a point where you're just like I feel right where I'm at and I feel home where I'm at. So when a change comes up, when an opportunity comes up, it's just like maybe not right now. Maybe when I'm ready for it. But when will you actually be ready for it if you don't take the chance? So I definitely agree with what Esther and Sarah said earlier about like personalizing yourself and like personalizing your life and making it more fit to you and who you are so that you're ready to take that next step.
For sure. I feel like it's so important when change is coming, like with what Sarah said, that there's a reason why. There is a reason why this change is happening. And, we have to think about why we're doing it and why I came to this high school, especially because of all the opportunities. I'm like, this is so stressful. These classes are stressing me out, but I'm like, why am I here? I'm here because I want to be here, because I want to get these grades, because I want to go far in life. And so, like, when this transition is stressing me out, when I'm like so scared about my next classes for next year, you just have to remind yourself why you're doing it.
Yeah, with a little bit of technical difficulties, but we just want to pretty much wrap up what we talked about in today's episode. Transition and change is something we all go through in different aspects of our life, whether it be in school or at home. And that is scary, but it's to learning to push through those tough times in order to make it to better times. There's always something at the end of a challenging moment that is going to be something for you to reflect on and be like, okay, yeah, I struggled. The transition was hard, but look, I'm finally where I want to be, or I'm closer to where I want to be. Not every transition is going to end in your final point, but it's one step closer to where you want to be in the future. And sometimes you have to lean on people around you to help support you through transitions that are more difficult for you. And that's also okay. We're humans at the end of the day. Now, if anyone has any final words before we wrap up today's podcast.
I have something really quick to add. It just reminded me when you said, like, at the end of every challenging moment, I saw something, it's been keeping me going this at the end of sophomore year and just like the kind of year it's been. It said, don't make any one night decisions. Okay. The amount of one nights that I've been like, I can't do this. I'm quitting everything. I'm just gonna pass and that's it. And then I wake up in the morning and I remember why I do everything. Don't make any one night decisions. Okay. Don't quit something you love just because you're very tired. Just, wrap it up and go to bed. Don't make one night decisions. It's kept me going
Don't make
really long.
permanent decisions. Don't make permanent decisions on temporary emotions. I'm the same way as you, Sarah. When it gets really stressful, I go into like shutdown mode. I'm like, okay, why do I do this? And then after a good night's rest, you're like, oh yeah, this is why I do this.
That
Right.
one
Even
night
like
just
impulsive,
yeah.
Yeah.
even like impulsive decisions. Like sometimes I'll like overbook myself. I'm like, oh yeah, this is an amazing opportunity. I'll just like do this and that and the third. And then I realize that I have no time for myself because I am like in too many places too many times. So yeah, definitely that.
Denying one amazing opportunity will not make a shortage of amazing opportunities, okay? If there's enough throwing themselves at you that you have to remember that taking care of yourself is also an amazing opportunity, don't worry about turning down that one amazing opportunity. That's yeah. I've had that exact same struggle several times. And that one night, no one night decisions has kept me single-handedly going several times in a row.
Absolutely. Change is inevitable. Change will happen and you can't stop it. Sometimes you just have to roll with it and, put your best foot forward. Change is going to come and you just have to find your unique way of dealing with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think that wraps up our episode for today, guys. My name's Maya.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Esther.
And I'm Abimbola. And remember, change is inevitable. Thank you for watching Note to Self.
See you guys next time. Bye.